Thank God we don't have tribes anymore in this country where children are asked whether they are Tutsis or Hutus, or where you have to get work or get in the university because you this or that. And thank God for that. But in the case of my father didn't actually complete high school. He finished he didn't finish. So he was kicked out at 16 years old when he was in year 8. Is that what you call it here now? Year 8 or deuxième secondaire. He was kicked out. He went to Byimana and he was kicked out for being a Tutsi. And in those days, the Tutsi men who were older then took the young boys under their shadows to teach them how to do business. And that's how my father was trained by other men. So like I said, we are from Nyanza. And I'm pretty sure that everybody knows that Nyanza people are good at business, at doing business. And so my dad was then taken under the wings of some of the older men and taught him to do business. And he ended up doing really good with his business. He bought land, he bought houses or built houses. He had a motel just not too far away from the airport. And he sold secondhand clothes, supplied secondhand clothes into the market. So he really did very well with his business as he was growing at a very young age. But then that also meant that we didn't have a dad at home. So he worked very hard. And I think Tutsis had to compensate to do much in order to raise their families, but also under so much fear, because as children, as you know, like you asked, when I was a kid at the age of 6, that's when I discovered that I was a Tutsi, simply because, not because my parents taught me, but because I went to school and I was asked to stand up. And I actually didn't even know what I was until my friend, that's the thing, that's one of the questions. But then when I learned that, you know, I just went home heartbroken too, because of the shame that we experienced. Every time there was that kind of standing up and counting how many Tutsis, first there was fear, there was shame that came with it. The Hutu children would make fun of us. And then we were not asked to stand up, but you were also, referred to as a snake, a cockroach. That's dehumanization. And so whenever then that happened, it was then all the children knew who was who. And trust me, they knew what they were doing. The government knew what they were doing. You are actually brainwashing little children, and you are doing the training of what was then carried out to be a genocide. But to answer your question, was my dad working under that much pressure? He worked so hard. He was never home. He would only come home on the weekends sometimes. But then when the RPF started in 1990, his business was actually confiscated. Like he didn't have the right to his money, and he was put in jail. So the money that he worked for all those years, he didn't have the right to after he came out of jail. He literally had to make, at least you were a survivor, you know this, but probably you were much younger than I was, too young to understand. But then there was a time the Tutsi men who had money, their money was then held by the bank, and you could only access the money that you're going to use then. Like you know how like a child makes a list of things that you're going to have from the parent. That's how they made them, and that's really taking the value of a man to make them feel like they are nothing. And that's all part of the plan of what the genocide did to our fathers and to us. And so him working hard and then losing all that stuff at the same time, it wasn't just him, it was also his friends. That's an effect of what the plan was going towards the 1994.